Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 176 of Pera's Playbook. Today we're joined by Bailey Griffis. She plays basketball at Lawrence University. Bailey, thanks for hopping on. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I just got done helping out with a track meet and yeah, no complaints here. Tomorrow's Friday. Very happy about that.
Good point. Good point. We're on reading period right now, so we didn't have class today. Don't have class tomorrow. It's a little bit quieter over here on our campus, which is a nice little break in the middle of our term, but gives us a chance to refresh a little bit. And I'll be working in the conference baseball tournament tomorrow, so that'll be fun too.
Yeah, that's exciting. Do you have finals? Like, when does your term end?
So finals are the second week of June.
Okay, wow, late.
Yeah, we started a week later than we normally do. Um, Move-in's always mid-September for first years, so kind of pushes everything back a little bit and being on a trimester schedule as well. Our terms are 10 weeks long, so we go fall term 10 weeks, we have a 6-week winter break, back on for 10 weeks, have a week and a half break for spring break, and then we have another 10 weeks of classes. So it's a little different over here, but
Right. Yeah, I don't know of a lot of, places that do trimesters. I mean, most people are on a semester, so definitely a little bit different schedule than most other college students are. Well, let's start by talking about your kind of high school and your recruiting. I was reading in your bio that you did bass fishing in high school,
we did.
and that just kind of stood out to me because I know there's competition bass fishing, and I know that some colleges have teams, but I did not know that people in high school, like, was that your high school had a bass fishing team?
My high school did have a bass fishing team. It's interesting. So, being at my high school, bass fishing had been around for a little while, but it was kind of it and still kind of is an emerging sport in Illinois. It's more structured. It gets a little bit more intense every year. But I grew up fishing with my dad. My dad's actually a guide in northern Wisconsin now. So that passion was instilled in me pretty early, and I just kind of wanted to learn a little bit more. So it was more of an informational experience for me than necessarily the competitive aspect. But I still enjoyed it. I participated in it every year, going to meetings, getting on the water at least once a year. I was also in theater, so those seasons kind of conflicted and were at the same time. So I had to pick and choose what I could and couldn't do. But I still wanted to be a part of the team, and the coaches were more than willing to let me be around when I could. So I did participate in bass fishing in high school. Yeah.
That's so unique. Like, people can ask you, "Oh, what sports did you play in high school?" You're like, I was a bass fisher. Like, oh,
Not something I necessarily advertise, but if you're curious, I'm more than willing to talk about it.
yeah. No, I just think that's so cool. It's like, just a unique, different sport that. I mean, you talked about it not being super popular in Illinois. I'd be willing to guess that it's just not super popular across the country at the high school level and even at the college level. I mean, I know there's some colleges that have it, but it's not, like a huge sport.
One of the one of my like teammates in high school is also my year actually went on to he goes to a Division 2 school and fishes. So not impossible to find programs out there. So I don't know, it's definitely unique to see that too and to see IHSA kind of incorporating and growing in different sports. I mean, you see that with girls wrestling now and that becoming an IHSA sport as well. So they're kind of catching on to what people are interested in, and I think that's amazing. And it opens so many doors for so many other people who have interests in different sports and want to pursue different things. And to have that opportunity early on and to have it in high school. So it's growing, it's out there. It's just a matter of like sharing sports and getting people involved. I know We started having a youth camp. I think it was my junior year, we started having a youth camp in either, yeah, I think so. So also bringing in younger generations and showing them different things. And we used the parking lot. We didn't go out anywhere, but still, you got what you got, and you got to use what you got to actually learn. And a lot of it was us in classrooms learning how to tie knots and not being on the water all the time because the weather's not the greatest. And then trying to find a pond where there are fish to go fish. And it was an experience. Caught a bass out of a little pond. So I don't know.
That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
I think kind of in this digital age, there are a lot of sports that are growing, and I think the accessibility, like people can watch more stuff online. Like if you go on ESPN Plus, they have so many different sports that aren't televised anywhere else. I know beach volleyball is big on ESPN Plus. These sports that maybe they get a lot of airtime during the Olympics, but they don't necessarily get a lot of airtime otherwise. Now with the internet and all these different streaming services, these sports are more accessible for people to watch, and then I think that obviously is helping grow. People watch it and they're like, hey, that looks kind of cool, maybe I want to try that. And I know lacrosse has grown a ton over the years, field hockey, fencing is gotten really big, so there's just a ton of sports that you could throw in that category of growing.
For sure.
So let's start talking about your recruiting journey. I mean, you're far away from home, but you're not crazy far. Some people go across the country. Some people obviously go to college in their backyard. So you're somewhere kind of in the middle. Um, so when did you start talking to schools?
So my decision to actually try and play collegiate basketball came pretty late. I joined an AAU program for my junior year of high school. I had trained with them through COVID and then decided to play for them in hopes that that would give me a little bit more exposure and being able to be recruited and having those conversations. So that didn't come until pretty late in high school for me. I went to some camps in between my junior and senior year trying to figure things out. Um, Went out to Virginia for a camp, did a Midwest academic camp, pretty close to home in Illinois. So being able to go to camps like that and then facilitate conversations with college coaches off that too. Um, my recruiting journey itself was a little all over the place. It was trying to communicate with coaches and then not always receiving responses or thinking, okay, I visited this school twice. Maybe they would be interested, and then completely getting no communication afterwards. So having to navigate that and also navigate if I really did want to play basketball was something else because I had a dream school in mind. And if I had gotten into that school, I said, okay, I will sacrifice. Like, I'm not going to play basketball if I get into the school. And I didn't end up getting in. And I kind of took that as my sign, okay, you're supposed to play basketball. And I had an offer from a school in Illinois, Lawrence here, and then a school in Ohio, at the time. And after visiting a different school in Ohio, I was like, okay, this is actually a little bit further than I want. But also staying home, I was kind of like, am I going to feel like I'm in college? Am I going to get that true college experience? So naturally, I kind of like narrowed down my options from the offers I had at that point and said, okay, Lawrence, this is my fit. I liked the campus, I liked the location, I liked that I was mid-distance from home. I'm about 3.5 hours from my hometown, and then 3 hours from where my dad guides. So when he's in season, he'll be up north in northern Wisconsin, which is about 3 hours from here. So I'm perfectly in between where my mom is year round and where my dad is for half the year. So it's ended up being pretty perfect location wise. I wanted a place that would challenge me academically. A smaller school size was going to be beneficial for me because I've gone to private school my entire life. So I was in private Catholic education um, from first through my senior year of high school. Um, so like having smaller class sizes already. Being a pretty introverted person, I knew that a smaller environment was going to be beneficial for me, for my growth, for my comfort level, for my ability to grow socially and get the most out of my college experience. I also found that being at a local arts institution was going to be really beneficial for me because I've been interested in the arts, I've been interested in music. And I knew that if I had the time and the opportunities to incorporate that into my education, I would. And it's turned into me adding a studio art minor and taking voice lessons when I can. So, really being able to take advantage of everything that I have here outside of basketball and academics has been crucial to my experience as well. So it's just kind of ended up being perfect. Like, granted, there are moments where there are bumps in the road and challenges that I have to face and adversity I have to face in every sphere in academics and social and basketball and anything else that comes my way, but I don't think I could imagine myself being anywhere else at this point. So it's ended up being the best out of what I had at the time and the options that were out there for me, and I'm happy I made the decision I did.
I always want to talk to every college athlete about their recruiting journey because I think it's important to show that there's not one way to do it. You know, like so like you mentioned, starting a little bit later. Some people start super early. Some people are walk-ons. Some people have full ride scholarships. Some people they commit to schools, and I've even heard of coaches kind of saying like maybe you shouldn't come here anymore, and the coach gives the player a boot. Players commit, and there's just so many different stories. I think it's important to show any high school athlete that might be watching it, and even just regular people, because I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of ignorant to the ways of college athletics, what recruiting's like, what college athletes go through on a daily basis. I know a lot of people look down on D3 and D2 or NAIA,
Mhm.
and I feel like it's just due to the schools don't get enough attention. There's not a lot of media coverage on that level, so that's why people are ignorant. So I think it's important to share all of these stories for athletes to, if there's any kid out there that's late in their recruiting and they're not getting a lot of action, like that's okay. It happens to a lot of people. So yeah, I think it's super important to share that.
Yeah. I mean, I think your level is also dependent on what you want out of your experience. So going NAIA, there's scholarship money available for you through NAIA. If you don't want to go to an NCAA institution, for D3 athletes, a lot of us are on high academic scholarships. Like most of I over half my tuition's paid for through my academic scholarships and the scholarships I've received from the university. So it's also important to realize like not everything's up to athletics. It's other things. It's your academics. It's whether you decide to apply for scholarships outside of your university itself. If you look for local scholarships, which normally high schools have pretty good access to and they know what's available. I know my high school did. Um, and then as you're through your years in college, like I've gotten more scholarship money from the things I've been involved in. So I'm involved in a sorority here on campus. I'm president of one of our sororities, and I've received $4,500 in financial aid through merit and need-based scholarships. So it's like you don't really know necessarily what opportunities are going to be there for you until you've actually even been in an institution too. Like you just don't know what you have access to. And things come along the way and things that you might not expect to be there, resources that you might not expect to be there. And it's also just a learning curve of like financially being able to afford college, but also realizing that it's not just up to your athletic performance. It's not just up to what you can do, it's what's right for you and what's the best fit for you, location wise, what you want to do with your career, what you want to major in, what kind of atmosphere you want to be in, what kind of location. Like there are so many different spheres too, and to realizing what's going to be the most beneficial for you. So I think it's best not to rule out any school, any program that you have an opportunity to based off little things. And granted, it's good to have high goals, but You can go and sit on a bench for 4 years, or you can go learn your role, be a part of a team where you're going to work your way up to where you want to be. And that's kind of where I've fit in that kind of that latter category of where I've grown each and every year, and I see myself developing and growing. And it's not always what you want it to be sometimes, but sometimes you have to roll with that. Sometimes that's how you learn to grow, because once you get out of college, once you realize, oh shoot, like I have to go find a job in 6 months, then you're starting to think, okay, well, athletics aren't forever. Like this isn't going to be my life forever. I have this passion, I have this love for my sport, and I want to keep it going. And that's what's been most beneficial for me is to realize like I've loved this sport for so long. I want to find the joy in it. I want to continue doing it because I love it, not necessarily because I want to achieve all these things that may not necessarily be realistic for me, but I want to keep going forward and I want to keep doing what I love. And I know that'll benefit me once I'm done with my college education and once I'm done playing competitive basketball. Like it's all going to work out and it's all going to be for the best, and I'm willing to be better for it.
Yeah, I think that's a super important point. I mean, there's such a small percentage of college athletes that actually go on to play professional sports. And there's also so few sports that you can make a living wage. Like, there are pro beach volleyball players, but the majority of them can't live off of beach volleyball by itself. There are, even if you look at hockey, I mean, if you're not in the NHL or the AHL, you really can't make a livable wage. You have to be doing something else. Football, I mean, if you don't make it to the NFL, again, you can't make a livable wage. Runners, and golfers, and there's all these sports where yes, people go pro, but only the top of the top can actually make a livable wage. So even if you manage to keep playing your sport after college, you still have to have an education, and the sport doesn't last forever. I mean, even if you go to the NFL for 5 years, you're probably only going to be 25, or 28 or whatever when you're done, and you've hopefully got a long life ahead of you. So I think, yeah, don't pick your school. I mean, I'm not a college athlete. I just picked my school solely based on academics. But if I was an athlete, I wouldn't pick solely based on athletics. Obviously, you want to like the coaches, you want to like the program, but you also have to enjoy the academic options, because in the end, I mean, that's going to be more of your life
Mhm.
than athletics. Talking about athletics, though, you're 3 years down at Lawrence, and your team has gone through a kind of a big improvement from when you were first there to this year. Your first season there, the team was 7-18, and this past season you guys were 18-8. So huge improvement. What do you think has been the difference, for you guys as a team growing over these past 3 years?
Well, to start off, my freshman year, we had 4 players tear their ACLs. So we had a huge injury year. It happened right as we were like just getting into conference play too. So that really didn't help the rest of the season. A lot of our team was frustrated. We were seeing some of our closest friends go down with injury, knowing that was going to be a long road for them, missing their contributions to our team. Almost every single player that tore their ACL that year was a starter. We had another person tear their ACL postseason. So it's really like that was a big contributing factor our freshman year, and it left people frustrated and hungry. And I think that that bounce back piece, that resilience piece, once those players did return the following year, incoming recruiting classes, we also, my freshman year was the first year our school had a full-time assistant on our staff who was dedicated to training us, to spending extra time with us in the gym, helping our head coach out. And I think that piece has been very helpful as well in being able to attribute more time to our own development as players. I think a lot of us have also really bought into our culture, to the process, to our trainings, to spending time in the gym, to studying film, to doing all the little things that really do make a difference. And I think all those contributing factors to more people on the team, to us growing, together in our culture and who we want to be and setting high goals, high standards for ourselves. Everything within that and within that process has made us better. And I think we're just on the up. I think, granted, the class that just left now that are graduating are some of the most high achieving players that our team has seen in years. So it is a big loss to have four players with starting potential and who did start throughout their careers to lose them. But I think my class is willing to step up and lead and to take on responsibilities and to contribute and to develop and to do all those little things that'll help make our team even better and to kind of keep this culture of winning, of success stable, and hopefully propel it forward even more so that these classes under us kind of get that same feeling and want to keep us winning, keep contributing, keep caring about what we want to see as a team, about what we want to accomplish in the conference tournament. I mean, the past 2 years, we got knocked out in the semis. Like our conference tournament is 4 teams. It's very unique to the Midwest Conference. Only very few conferences around the country do that and only have 4 teams in their conference tournament. But I mean, to see that in us, I think we really just want to get past that. I think we want to keep getting better. I think making the conference tournament is great, but I don't think that's not the goal. The goal is to win. So I think going forward, it's really like, what can we do to get ourselves into the tournament? And then what kind of attitude do we need to go into the tournament with after we've achieved that? And I think that'll be a crucial piece this year if we can get ourselves in that same position as we have been in the last 2 years to get into the tournament. Um, it's competitive. It's different because every year the league changes as seniors are lost, as everybody brings in new players. And it's a new challenge. I mean, we're also unique in the fact that we're one of the only sports that has a home and away for every team in our conference. So we play each team twice. We have to travel. Whereas a lot of sports in our conference will either they'll play each team once and then it shifts every year whether they're home or away. We have to play double that amount of games and travel to every single team in the conference. And that itself is a challenge in having a travel schedule like that. And that was another place that we really excelled at this year was being able to compete on the road. And that led to a lot of our success in being able to take those long trips and turn them into wins and then creating a better culture for ourselves that way as well.
Yeah, yeah, great growth pieces. Like you mentioned making the conference tournament, but now you want to win it. I mean, that's like a great building block to make it. But now you want to get over that hump. And like you also mentioned, it's all about creating that stable winning culture and just trying to keep that. Because once you can get that, I mean, yes, every year teams lose players, but the great programs manage to keep going every year, even though they lose 4 or 5 seniors a year. The recruiting, just gets better. The more consistent you are, players want to play on teams that win.
Hmm.
So when you have consistent success and you're making the conference tournament, you start winning that. Then that goes to your recruiting and you mentioned the assistant coach. I mean, resources are a huge part of it. Um, and especially at the Division 3 level. I mean, you look at Division 1 and they all have about 18 coaches and you know but at D3 level, it's all over the board with the resources that are available to different teams. So having an assistant coach is huge, and when you can consistently year after year have that extra person, and it's all building. I mean, like you can't build a program overnight, right? Like it takes multiple seasons, but it has to feel nice to be a part of that right now. That success. You're getting better and better each year, and then when you graduate, you'll be able to look back and say like, well, I was a part of, I left this behind. I left the program in a good spot. I was a part of this, and you can feel good about it.
Exactly. And I think that was one thing that I'm starting to realize, especially as someone who will be a senior on the team next year, is what do I want to leave behind me? And granted, it's not going to be this great accomplishment of scoring or necessarily like record breaking, but what do I want to leave that's going to stick with our team, with our culture, and what we as a class want to leave behind us. And I think that's something I kind of have to put in perspective in the off season, especially over the summer. Like, what do I want? What do we want? What do we see ourselves as? And really reflect on that going into our season because realistically, like we get back on campus, I think September 15th is our first day of classes. So from there, we have exactly a month till our first official practice date. And in between that, we'll have at least four practices, four contact days, because NCAA Division III, like we're allowed 8 off-season practices that can be distributed either before or after our season ends, as long as we're in school. So we normally split them 4 and 4. So we'll have four practices in the fall, and then there's four in the spring. So we just had our first practice of the spring this past week. And being around everybody and seeing the coaches back in the gym and being able to kind of gauge, okay, what are we looking for next year as a team? I think those are all important things that we have to realize and focus on, and then being able to integrate the freshmen once they get here. It'll all be a learning curve, but I'm excited to see what a new season brings for us and what we have 7 commits right now. So big recruiting class coming in, possibly 8. So again, just that piece of being welcoming, integrating everybody into hopefully assimilating to that culture that we have now and just keep propelling us forward.
Yeah, and once you get that taste of winning, you just want more. I mean, it's like being you're a predator. You just get that taste, and you just want to keep eating up win after win after win. So I mean, that I feel like that helps once because there's a lot of programs that just they don't win. So they don't know what it's like. But once you have a couple seasons, it's like, hey, we're winning some games. This is a lot of fun. This is great. That
Mhm.
helps you. You get that momentum year after year, and consistency. I mean, that's like and that's hard in college sports. It's easier at D3, hard at D1 right now with the transfer portal and NIL. I mean, it's so hard. I can't imagine being a coach or a player on some of these teams because there's such a lack of consistency from year to year. But that's one thing that D3 still has is consistency. There's not as much roster turnover. You kind of year to year, the coaches have a little bit easier, because they're getting the same players back. You don't have 10 people leaving in the portal every year. So I think there's so many factors in college athletics. Everyone's sitting on the couch yelling at the TV. It's not just like it's not that simple. It's not cut and dry. There's so many factors, and also at the end of the day, all of the athletes are also students. All of the athletes have personal lives. Like you might lose a game not because you didn't have enough talent, but because everybody's got a huge exam coming up and people are just stressed and they're thinking about or people have stuff going on in their personal lives. I mean, I feel like that's a factor that people don't with college athletics, they just look at them like athletes. That's all they are. It's just that defines that person, which is complete nonsense. Even professional athletes, yes, that is their job, but beyond that, they're a person that has the same array of problems as the rest of us.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting perspective. I think one of the things about our recruiting process is that our coach kind of really expresses that he cares about us as both people and as athletes. And I think that translates into the conversations he has with us, especially off the court. Um, and I think that's something we bring to our program off the t like when we're on the team too, is being able to have those conversations with everybody across programs. And I think our athletic culture on our campus is also very tight-knit to where we go and support each other. Um, and creating an atmosphere where we can engage with each other regardless of like whether we play a different sport, whether we're involved in different activities. And the joy of our campus is it's so small that you walk from one end to the other and you're going to see at least a handful of people you know along the way. And I think that helps create value in us as well, is that it's so easy for us to create those relationships both in our sport and outside of it. For me, that's been a very valuable and integral piece is getting to know people that not only those on my team and getting close to people on my team, but creating those relationships with other athletes, with people who aren't athletes, through my sorority, through academic organizations, through my major, through my classes, like creating all those valuable relationships that help me even realize as an athlete that that's not everything for me either. Because again, there's that expectation sometimes from the outside world, but then you get here and sometimes you're like, oh, well, if you just came to a school or your primary reason for coming to a school is to play a sport, then where does that other value lie? So I think that's another factor where you kind of have to zoom out a little bit and realize like that's not everything and that there are different opportunities for you to be involved in different things, especially when you're at a D3 school. When you have training a couple hours every day throughout the week, like right now we're going 5 days a week. And I mean it can be intense, but it's meant to be a more relaxed atmosphere when we're in our postseason. So that helps us out a little bit. But on our schedule, it's like we have opportunities to pursue our interests and to do different things, and to be leaders both in our sport and outside of our sport, and be involved in different clubs and go to intramurals, like play intramural sports, go watch other teams play, go support other programs. We have a conservatory, so some of my sisters in my sorority are in the conservatory, so I went to the opera this year. I get to go see them perform sometimes. One of my teammates is also in the conservatory, so I went to her senior recital just about a week and a half ago. So there are those things too, those different experiences where you get to integrate yourself into the campus, into things you wouldn't think of outside of if you were just solely focused on athletics.
Yeah, that's another, why D3, because you can be passionate about your sport and you can have a great experience, but it doesn't have to be your whole experience. Like everything you just mentioned, it would be very hard to do that at a Division 1, where you've got a full ride scholarship. I mean, the expectation is we're winning a national championship this year, and like we are going to go nonstop, and this is your life, and so it's all about priorities when you're going to pick your, like, maybe that's what you want, and go you if that's what you want. But if you want to just have a great experience and play your sport and make new friends and get to also experience everything that a normal college student does, then yeah, heck yeah, go D3 or D2 or NAIA or whatever, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, like, it's not good enough or whatever, because they really don't know what they're talking about. Did they play a college sport? No, they didn't. And here they are trashing you. The all haters are gonna hate, right? How's that haterade taste, bro? Come on. But yeah, all very good points. Now I think we could kind of transition into like faith. It's something that's very important to me, and it's something that I didn't talk about on the podcast. I wouldn't shy away from it if somebody brought it up, but I wouldn't intentionally bring it up. And but I've changed my mindset, and I just feel like it's too important of a topic to not talk about. I feel like it's my duty as a Christian. They talk about it in church all the time, and spreading the word, and I would just kind of be like, yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of maybe, but I was always afraid to talk about it, and but there's no reason to be afraid to talk about it, and now that's kind of, I want to talk about it with anybody that's willing to talk about it.
That's fair. I think I share a similar struggle where if I know that that door is open for me, and knowing that there are other Christians, especially like my team has a fellowship of Christian athletes, huddle. So once a week we'll go to Starbucks down the street and we'll have a Bible study or we'll go through some programming that we've worked on, and have those conversations about faith and about the things that we struggle with, whether it's basketball related, not basketball related. And we also have a Christian fellowship on our campus. Granted, the regular time does most of the time conflict with my basketball schedule, so that's not always the most convenient. But I went a lot my freshman year, and I think that helped me realize too, like I'm not alone, that my life that I experienced at my private school when I was at a Catholic school in grade school. We had church every week. At my high school, it was about once a month, but my senior year, I had an opportunity to be a sacristan. So I was helping set up mass every time we had mass at my school. So I had to go every week, but I wanted to go every week. Um, and realizing that as I shifted to this experience in college, that there wasn't going to be that required aspect. That was something I was going to have to choose for myself and prioritize. And I think a lot of the times I've realized that my life here has gotten so big that sometimes I lose that focus on my faith. And that's something I have to realize, like, once I get into the outside world, it's not going to be much different. And I think that's a perspective I still sometimes have to really work on and have to shift is that I have to make the time. And that can be really hard when you're juggling so many different responsibilities across so many different things, like I have throughout my college experience. And it's not that faith isn't and still like it still maintains to be a big part of who I am as a person. And I know it's molded me into the person I am. I know that's why I have the values I have, is because of how I was raised and the values that were instilled in me through my education and going to private school. And I'm extremely thankful that that's the way I am because I wouldn't want to be any different. But I think it's a learning process, and I think it's also very perspective oriented. Something that I've tried to incorporate more into my life this year, and especially in my athletic experience, is being able to realize like why you're playing in the first place, who you're playing for. And for a lot of, I think my early years here, it was me playing for myself. And that was not a good perspective for me because then I allowed all those external pressures and all these expectations from everyone else to also seep into how I performed. And I think by incorporating a little bit of a shift in perspective is like I'm here because like God gave me this talent and I want to keep pursuing the passion that he's put on my heart has been a big piece of why I think I improved so much this past year and experienced so much more happiness. I don't think I've been any happier playing basketball since I don't know if I could even tell you when. Probably COVID at least. So it's been at least 5 years since I've been this happy playing my sport. And I think it's realizing the joy that comes from it, and the joy that I experience and really embracing that I am here to enjoy what I love, to play a sport I love, rather than because I need to worry about scoring X amount of points or being the best player on the court at all times, even though like I want that for myself. Like I want to score points, I want to be a great player, a great defender, and be a great contributor to my team. It's also that piece of like it's you against yourself. It really is. And realizing that I just need to work to make myself better than to worry about what everybody else is doing around me. And I think that's given me a better perspective that has allowed me to be a better teammate as well. And being able to care for my teammates and support them and to push them to be better. And I think that whole perspective of having faith and embracing all these values that I've been taught and have learned to embrace in my daily life have really contributed to how much I've been able to enjoy my sport here. And I think like my team has been a great contributor to that, and that I get to see them every week and see them in a different sphere and get to experience that through FCA. And I've seen it in my friends outside of basketball as well. One of my closest friends has been on her own faith journey, and I see her going through that, and we've talked about faith a lot throughout that too. So, just continuing to embrace those conversations where they are present and being able to share my perspective, my experience. And I think it's made me better as an athlete, as a person. But I don't think it's ever something where you have to be like, oh, I can't work harder because I can, and I know I can, and I know I can be better, and I know I can be more focused on my faith. But I really feel that right now, all those other underlying priorities have really almost overtaken that, which is not what I want, and why I'm so excited to not necessarily like be done with school, but excited to embark on a different period so that over my summer, as I do other things, as I spend more time at home, that I can really reset myself and focus myself on what I want my senior year and what priorities I want set before I leave this place and go and find a job and start exploring my career and what the rest of my life's going to look like. Because I know I want faith to be an integral part of that, and I want it to be at the forefront. Um, and like I said, I think it's just a process of learning.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points, especially in this day and age. Like, society wants you to care about yourself the most. Society wants you to care about stuff, who's got the nicest car, who's got the best house, who's wearing the nicest clothes, who's doing the most, who got first place, who did all these accomplishments, and to care more about that than your faith. I mean, we live in a world where I feel like in recent years, like society, the media, Hollywood, like some movies, and the way it's kind of pushing away from faith. You don't need faith. You know, you can do everything on your own. And I feel like we're getting to a point where we're kind of seeing a shift back. There's a lot of athletes that are very outspoken about their faith from the college level all the way up to the pros. And I feel like we're seeing a huge spike in that in like the recent years, because I feel like people are kind of noticing like, hey, the world is telling me this is what I should be believing, but like no, let's take a step back and remember what it's all about. And it's hard. I mean, it is really hard. Like you mentioned, there's so many stresses. I have good intentions every day. I tell myself like I'm gonna read the Bible tonight, and then
Mhm.
I get up to bed and I'm like I'm just so darn tired after the day. I have no energy and I don't end up reading the Bible. You know, it's my goal to do it every day, and I fall short of that goal all the time. But I think the most important part is just not giving up. It's staying true to the journey. You know, you're not going to be perfect in that journey, but as long as you keep putting in the effort, no matter how hard it gets, I think that's like that's the most important thing. You can look at sin, like we're all going to sin, but as
Mhm.
long as you don't quit and you just keep trying to better yourself,
Mhm.
that's the most important thing. Yeah, I mean it's hard. It's not going to get easier, like you mentioned. Once you get outside of school, now you've got a job and there's bills to pay, and then you get kids and they got to go to sports and they got to go here and there, and you got to make dinner and you got to clean and yeah, we just live in such a busy world. You know, like it's so hard to find 5 minutes of silence. Like even if you go outside, like yeah, I'm not listening to music, I'm not on my phone, but man, all I can hear are the trucks driving by, and there's some sirens, and there's like you really got to go away to find some like pure quiet where all you can hear is nature and your thoughts.
Right. I think I try to kind of set aside time sometimes where, especially when I'm in a headspace where I'm like, I'm very busy, I'm very stressed. When I lose sight of that, where I'll put my headphones on and like go on a walk and listen to worship music, or just kind of like realize that perspective of I'm in such a beautiful place, like this world, like how does this world even exist without God? And trying to put that perspective in my head is like everything around you. Look at what's around you, look at the people around you, and how is this the way it is? And trying to take that perspective. And sometimes it's those like bigger thoughts turn into those switches and those reminders of what you really need to be focused on. I think one of the joys I have here on this campus is we have a campus in Door County. We call it the York London. And a lot of athletic teams use it as a retreat facility prior to their season. The women's soccer team, which I managed for this past season and will manage for next year, they won a conference championship. Um, they go to Bjork every year. My team goes to Bjork, so I went to Bjork twice this year, and I absolutely love it up there. And to look up and see the stars in the most pure form I have ever seen over Lake Michigan is one of the most beautiful things. And I think it's those nature reminders for me too that kind of are like, wow, this is so incredibly beautiful. And seeing those things. really shift that perspective for me. It's not something that occurs every day. Sometimes it's once a month, but those are the things that once I can again zoom out and really see what's around me and what's going on around me and be less focused on myself, those are the moments where I'm like, this is so much bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can turn off the noise and be in just a beautiful, peaceful place, that's the perfect time to like reset your thoughts. And I mean, odds are we're gonna get back in the busy world, and we spiral right back into that spot. But if you just keep resetting yourself and doing your best, that's really all we can do is just keep putting in the most effort possible. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it kind of applies all across life. Like in sports, most people who want to pursue their athletics don't just quit when it gets tough. You buckle down and you work harder. If you are trying to learn guitar, and you just can't get that note, you're not just going to quit if you really want to learn it. And the same is true in your faith. When it gets hard, that's where you really just got to buckle down the most and just stay as true as you can in this crazy, hectic world that we live in.
And I also think when we think about struggles in faith, it's like God put those in your life for a reason too. You're meant to learn something from it. I think one of the perspectives I've heavily held in my life is that everything happens for a reason and everything's meant to happen for a reason. So even through the disappointments, the challenges, the things that I really want, or for example, like I didn't get an internship opportunity. And I said, okay, well, let's refocus this. And I ended up taking an extra week at home instead of going to work for an extra week and being able to spend more time with my family. And I'm like, that's what was meant to happen. I'm meant to be home for that specific week. And even if I don't know it now or don't know the reason behind it, that I have to have that trust and that faith in God. Like he set these things out for me. He set this path out for me. I've also been at a challenging point where I'm a junior. I'm starting to rethink exactly what I want to do with my future. Typical college student, right? But coming into college, I was very, very set on going to law school. Not that that's not still there. It's a reason I study government here. And then I also added the business major, which is new to our university, but I was trying to set myself up for success in what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to continue to study. And right now, I don't necessarily know what I want to do. I know I'm going to take a gap year because I think it's best for me if I take a step back and can start, um, again, thinking about that money piece. I'm already being like, I have to start worrying about paying off my loans. And that's another reason why I want to take a gap year is I don't want to reach this amount of debt by going to law school that I then have to worry about afterwards. But I've been kind of struggling with the piece of what am I supposed to do with my life? And I know what I'm good at and I know what I enjoy. It's just the idea of I really want to enjoy the job that I take on and the career that I pursue. And I want to be happy and I don't want it to be, oh, the only joy I experience is the time that I'm not at work because that's not realistic. I don't want to be in that headspace where everything I do is a chore, especially work. And granted, like you have tasks, you have responsibilities, but I want to have that joy piece to it. Um, and I think that's something else I have to place faith in is that even though I have these conflicting ideas now and this struggle and what I want to do, that these ideas and this struggle is placed in my life for a reason. And then I will end up choosing what's meant for me, whether it's a year from now, whether it's 5 years from now, whether it's 10 years from now, that this is exactly the way it's supposed to be, and that's the way it's meant to be. Um, and you know, like I said, college classics, like college student classic concept of like, ooh, they don't know what they want to do. Yeah, no. But it's that experience piece. And I think I'm going to take the perspective of trying things as time goes on and seeing what I do like, what I don't like, what I want to incorporate into my life, um, and what my big picture goals are going to be. And I know like having a family, that's really important to me. That's something I see myself doing is having a family. And then being able to think about, well, where do I want to live? How it costs a lot of money to raise a family. And just trying to prepare myself for that future. But again, like trying not to get too far ahead of myself too, because I'm a very futuristic thinking person, and I have all these big ideas and all these ideas of what the future can and will look like for me at some point in my life. But then the present seems to be like one thing, next thing, next thing, next thing. Like you're checking off things on a to-do list, which I also do. Whoops. But it's really just kind of, okay, take everything you can out of the present, out of this experience. Don't get too far ahead of yourself because you're going to miss the moments that are in front of you. And
Yeah.
I think that's another important piece is like not not having that perspective where you're constantly worried about what's to come because then you lose sight of what's really important. And the reality of it is you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen 10 minutes from now. So it's really like making the most out of what you have rather than what might be.
Yeah. I went through a very similar experience to what you're talking about. Throughout my college journey, I really did not love my major. But then I kind of got to the point where I was like a senior and I was like, I really don't love this, but now it's too late. Like, I don't want to stay in college. I'm just going to roll with it. And I took a job that I hated. I ended up hating it. Every day I hated going to work and it sucked. But in God's plan, He works. As corny as it sounds, God does work in mysterious ways. And He led me to a different path where I am not directly using my major. I'm making less money than I was, when I came out of college. But the biggest thing is I'm very happy. I love my job. I go to work happy. I'm happy when I'm at work. I'm happy when I come home. It's allowed me to do so many different things. Like this year, I've been reffing high school basketball, football, doing track meets. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that at my other job. It's just I feel like there's just so many things, and I know a lot of people, they look for like what job's going to make me the most money. But if I had to give any advice to any high school or college student, it's like, go where you're the happiest. Yes, yeah, money, yeah, it's nice. Obviously, you need it to live, but if you can live comfortably and then be happy, or you can be rich beyond your wildest dreams but hate your job, I would pick comfortable and happy over, I mean, it's just not worth it to me. So yeah, God's got a plan, and it doesn't always make sense. In many times I went back to being the classic human doubter of, why is this happening? I don't get it. And then sure enough, it worked out the way it was supposed to work out for me. And yeah, it's something that I think, like you said, a lot of college students go through that. And I also think, like for me, it shows that, like, just because you go to school for this doesn't mean that has to be the rest of your life. Like, there's so many people that get a major and they end up doing something else just because the way things work out. Or, I mean, it's your path in life. God's got it planned out for you. And it's probably not going to be a straight road right down. There's going to be turns, lefts, right, up, down. I mean, it's a crazy journey, but we just gotta trust. As hard as that is, we just have to trust. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. I think we covered a lot of wonderful topics. Best of luck to the Vikings basketball team next season. Hopefully you guys can win that conference tournament.
I hope so too, and I think we'll be ready for him.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you hopping on.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.